Hey folks, Mark here, doing a little bit of a vinyl update. I haven't really done one of those. I've been doing themes, so this one's just a vinyl update. Done a couple of digs these last 2 weekends. This past weekend I was in Chicago at Reckless, and I was visiting some friends for Thanksgiving, and decided to hit Reckless, spent about almost $100 there in vinyl. And then the week previous, I had been to a record show here in Cleveland and didn't drop all that much there, probably about 40-ish. So spent a little bit of money, but it's always fun to do some digging, especially at Reckless and at record fairs. I always love doing that. So I want to get through this as quick as I can, so let's go ahead and get with some of my purchases. Got this album real cheap for $2.99. It's called The Empty Quarter by The Youth and Ben Watkins. Youth had just left Killing Joke. This came out in '83. So he'd left Killing Joke, and Ben Watkins would go on to be in a group called the Flower Pot Men, and then later in the '90s, Sun Sonic and Juno Reactor. So this is an album they'd done together called The Empty Quarter. Really good album. I have seen CD reissues of it, and it's usually a little out of my price range. So it was nice to find an original copy, and it's a gatefold, UK edition on Illuminated. Empty Quarter. Adele Berti, it's called When It's Over. This is a 12-inch she put out in 1985. She'd previously been in The Contortions with James Chance in the late 70s. This is very, very pop. It's produced by Green Gartside, Fred Marr, and David Gamson of Scritti Politti. And it's from 1985, so if you like Scritti Politti, Cupid Psyche 85, you like that album, then you definitely will like this. It is practically a Scritti Politti record. I had previously owned this, but one side of it was used, and one side of it had some paint splattered on the back, so I was never able to listen to the back of it. So I found another copy, really cheap over in Chicago, and thought I'd grab it. When It's Over, Adele Berti. Band out of Australia called Beaches, and this is their album. It's called She Beats. I haven't heard this yet, but I saw them at Austin Psych Fest about 2 years ago when they had it in the power plant, and they really impressed me. Australian band, all females, and very much, Mary Chain, kind of guitar fuzz kind of thing. Spear of Destiny, Kirk Brandon's band that he formed after Theater of Hate. This was one of their first singles, came out on Burning Rome. And Epic. They kind of signed over to the Epic label at that point. I'm just noticing that. And this is a little more tribal than later Spear of Destiny. I've only listened to the first side of it. I liked it okay. I've never been a huge fan of Theater of Hate or Spear of Destiny, but when I see their stuff around, at a relatively inexpensive price, especially the earlier stuff, 1984 and before that, I'll pick it up. Spear of Destiny. Music for Pleasure. This band had been signed to Polydor in the early 80s over in the UK, releasing a pretty good post-punk album called Into the Rain. This was obviously one of their later releases, and upon further inspection, their final release in 1984, a 12-inch EP, and the EP is called Chrome Hit Corrosion. And it's okay. It's got some synthesizers and kind of dark guitar in it. It didn't bowl me over, but, it had a nice sound to it. Not too unlike Sad Lovers and Giants, maybe. Label Dark Entries is a label I've been following lately, and I got a couple things on that label. This band, a 4-track EP, a new signing that I think is German. They're called In Halt, and this is just a 4-track EP of kind of dark wave electronic stuff. Quite liked it. There's the back of it. And then another release on the Dark Entries label. This band is called The Informatics. Love the cover. And it's very much of the Sprocket style, early 80s minimal synth kind of thing. If you're into Kraftwerk and things that are extremely Teutonic and German sounding, you will like this. This is a collection of recordings between 1980 and 1985, and boy, it sounds like it. Informatics. Here's a band called Manual. Well, it's not a band, it's a guy named Jonas Monk. And he does shoegazy electronic stuff, instrumental, real dreamy. If you're into Robin Guthrie and Cocteaus and Ulrich Schnaus, if you're into him, you'll totally love this guy. Gorgeous music. Could not find this on CD. I have most of his CDs, but I went ahead and picked this album up. It's a 6-track album, but his songs are really long, so I'm sure it's going to be pretty much, a 45, 50-minute affair. Titles, to give you an idea of what he's like: Awash, Glide, Floating World, Water and Light. I mean, it tells you everything you need to know, as if this cover didn't already. So, new one from Manual, Awash. This is the missing hole in my Bolshoi collection. I have everything they've ever done except for the Happy Boy 12-inch. Have the 7-inch, which has boxes, but the 12-inch has a bonus track called Holiday by the Sea. And, you know, whenever I want to make that complete Bolshoi collection, I needed Holiday by the Sea, and I finally got it for $1.99 on the Happy Boy 12-inch from the Bolshoi. Carmel, or Carmel, however you want to pronounce her name, she was part of the neo-jazz revival that was going on over in Britain around 1983, 84, 85. You know, acts like Sade, Everything But the Girl, Blow Monkeys, Style Council even, you could kind of throw in there. Swan's Way, and Carmel. She was very jazzy, kind of, I don't know how really to describe her, but just kind of jazzy, you know, fun music. I always liked her. This is obviously a later album. This is from 1987, and I don't know anything on it, but it was $1.99. It's called Everybody's Got a Little Soul. So there you go, Carmel. Ann Clark, album I didn't have by her. This one's called Changing Places. I only know 2 songs on it, Wally's and Sleeper in Metropolis, which were both singles. But really like her stuff, kind of you know, dark wave, Nitzer Ebbish kind of thing, mid-80s. Good stuff. A lot of club hits that she had, Sleeper in Metropolis in particular, by her. Something else I'd always wanted, XTC and Go Plus. In the UK, when Go 2 originally came out, it had an EP that came with it of dub mixes. And by the time I got it, all I could find was a domestic copy that didn't have the 12-inch. So I always wanted this, and found a copy for $6.99 in relatively good shape. It's pretty good shape. And it's 5 tracks of dubbed out XTC from 1978. Can't wait to hear this. Been holding off on it for a while. The Charlatans got a 12-inch by them called My Beautiful Friend. It has remixes by Lion Rock and Jags Coomer, who I like both of their mixes that they do for other people. Jags Coomer in particular does great remixes for Kasabian, if you're ever interested in exploring him a little more. Haven't heard this yet, but intend to check it out, The Charlatans. Then picked up a few 7-inches while I was there. This one from Brian Brain. I don't know much about Brian Brain other than it's Martin Adkins from PIL, P-I-L, band he formed, and they put out sporadic releases all throughout the 1980s, and EPs, a couple of albums. This turned out to be the first single that he'd ever put out, or they had ever put out. This came out in 1980. It's called Another Million Miles. Haven't heard it yet, but certainly want to. Little Nell, Fever. Little Nell from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And she played Columbia. Well, she released a single in 1978 on the A&M label, cover of Fever. There it is. It was $1, and it's on yellow vinyl. So how could I not pass that up? Or how could I pass it up? Foreign Press, a band I know nothing about, but the cover looked good. It's called The Great Divide, and it's on EMI from 1983. Who knows? But it has all the makings of a hidden gem, hidden new wave gem. Let's hope it is. Betty Bright and the Illuminations. This is the one thing I didn't have by her. I've got her album and 3 other singles by her. I knew there was a 4th one, and I found it. It's When You Were Mine with Soulful Dress on the B-side. And she used to be, well, actually, she is from the Liverpool scene, and I think she might have been in deaf school. Don't quote me on that, though, but she's definitely got connections within the Liverpool scene. Ian Brody and all of those types from the late 70s Liverpool. And it's on the Korova label with the milk bottles. You'll know that from your Sound and Echo and the Bunnyman records. Last couple things I'm going to show from Reckless. The Family Cat, a 45 by them. It's River of Diamonds with Sandbag Your Heart, band I like from the early 90s from the UK. Not really shoegaze, not really Manchester, kind of somewhere in between. Don't really know how you describe them. And then this one from a band called Appliances. I think that's the name of the band. And the single is called Waiting for the Europeans. Nice sleeve. Don't know anything about it except it's from 1983. It's called Waiting for the Europeans. I don't need to know much else. I'll pick it up. And then I went to the, so that's all I got at Reckless. So I went to the record show here in Cleveland, over in Brook Park, and picked up a few things there as well. I'm already at the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to get through these as quick as I can. I didn't get all that many here. Picked up Kimono My House. I did spend $15 on this, but it was a mint copy of their first album, which, well, they're actually their second album, which I never did own, and it's an original on Island. Original Island label there. So I thought, well, if I'm going to pick up Kimono My House, I might as well get an original. So there it was. Dropped a little cash, but hey, it sparks, and it's Kimono My House. I mean, if you don't have that album, I have it digitally, but now I own it. 2 Christmas albums of the Garage Psych variety. These are from 1984 and also 1987. One's called A Midnight Christmas. That's this one. And then the other one's called A Midnight Christmas Mess. And I knew of the label Midnight International over here in America. I knew about them. I don't know much except they put out garage stuff in the mid-'80s. But I do know John Frankovic from Plastic Land. He does a track on here. And, it just looked like a good concept of, kind of garagey Christmas songs. So I thought I'd pick them up. They were $10 a pop. And then this for 50 cents. Had to find out what the fuss was about. People keep telling me how good Tusk is by Fleetwood Mac. I only know 2 songs, Tusk and Sarah. So I'm interested to see if this album is as good as people say it is. Found a nice copy for 50 cents on vinyl. So there you go. Green on Red, early album by them. Band I'd never really bought much by, but have increasingly been interested in. So I found this 1983 album. This might be their first. Not sure of that. But it is from 1983 on the Slash label, Green on Red, California band associated early on with the Paisley Underground scene of Dream Syndicate, Rain Parade, 3 O'Clock, Bangles, all that. 2 12-inches I got for 50 cents each, had to get them. This is a non-guilty pleasure. I quite like Axel F. by Harold Faltermeyer. Of course, he later went on to work with Pet Shop Boys on their Behavior album. But, of course, he had a big hit from the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack with Axel F. This was a UK 12-inch, which has an extended mix, a B-side called Shootout, and then an Eminem mix. So, for 50 cents, I'll check out some remixes of that. I always liked it. And then one of the last songs I was ever into by Thompson Twins, Don't Mess with Dr. Dream. It was their cautionary song against drugs from 1985. Don't Mess with Dr. Dream. Anyway, had to grab it. It was 50 cents. And then just a few 45s. iTow. This was $3. It's a Cleveland band, and they're a Cleveland reggae band. I'm like, a Cleveland reggae band? So, for $3, I got to check it out. Donnie Iris, Do You Compute? Song I liked by him from his 1983 album, Fortune 400. And catchy stuff. You might know him from Leah and Love Is Like a Rock, his early 80s guitar retro or guitar radio hits. He was also in the Jaggers in the 70s. They had a song called The Rapper. That was a hit in the early 70s. And then a few things here. The San Francisco Earthquakes. Don't know anything about it, but it's on Smash. Love that label. The San Francisco Earthquakes. It's called I Feel Loved with that same old fat man. And it's written by Kay Young. And I have an album from the early 70s by a guy named Kenny Young. Wonder if it's the same. Cleveland band, don't know anything about them. They're called Charade, but it was a couple bucks. It's a single called And You Do. Interesting. New Colony 6, a band I like a lot, and a single they put out on the Centaur label. They're a Chicago band from the 60s, and their stuff that they put out on the Centaur is a lot more garagey. Hammond organ, just really, really good stuff, mid-60s. And so this is a single I didn't have. From when they were on the Centaur label. This dates from 1967. I'm just waiting, anticipating for her to show up. That's the name of it. They later signed to Mercury and got a little more smooth, adult contemporary, and I kind of like that stuff too. But good band, New Colony 6. I like them a lot. And then 2 singles by the James Gang. I've been hearing that I should be checking out the James Gang. I don't really know where to start. Don't know anything about them other than that Joe Walsh was in the group. But I found a single called Ya Dig. And then another one called Standing in the Rain. Anything standing in the rain, I'm there for. So anyway, that's... and then just a couple last things. I went to a concert recently and saw this band Laser Wolf. Kind of prog metal, but they had a 10-inch that they were selling at the show. It's instrumental. It's called There Was a Hole Here, and the B-side is called It's Gone Now. If you're into prog metal, Porcupine Tree, but a little harder, this band might be up your alley. Ranking Joe, I picked up at a local record shop called Hofsbrau here. From 1978, good dub music with Ranking Joe kind of toasting over it. Not unlike Dillinger, if you know your reggae and are into him. Check out Ranking Joe. I was impressed by this. And then last, a woman named Elise put out this album, self-titled album in 1968, and it just got re-released on a label called Isoda Records. And very good, pastoral sort of English folk, not unlike Sandy Denny. Some of it's a little more electric, folk rock. I don't know, it's kind of all over the place, but I quite like it, from 1968, so that kind of tells you what you need to know there. All right, we're at 15 minutes, almost 16. I'm going to wrap it up because it's time. Anyway, talk to you soon.